writer and director, a producer on it, and I was one of the stars of the film, along with J.B. Edwards. In the film, he plays my father. And like she said, Kelly and Hutch were producers, and then Hutch was also the director of photography. And the short film was a collaboration. It's actually based on my personal experiences as a caregiver to my elderly father. After my mother passed away, my sister and I were taking care of my father so that he could stay in his home. And I just, over time, started meeting so many people who were going through similar things. It was something that was affecting more and more young people and really kind of having a huge effect on their lives. And so initially when I wrote it and showed the script to like Kelly and Hutch, you know, it started kind of from a place of being, hey, maybe this will be cathartic for me to kind of write some of my experiences out. They responded to the material, and we had worked on other projects together, so they're like, let's make this. And just meeting more people who are going through similar things from all walks of life, I thought it might be a good story to kind of put out there.
It has an effect on mature people too.
What was it like casting your father's character and then vice versa getting to play her father?
Yeah, it was tough in the fact that since it's so personal, I had worked with JB before. He was in a family film of ours that we had made. And so I knew he was a strong actor, but the role of the father has dementia in the film. And that's something that's really hard to portray accurately, the kind of going in and out. And so when he read for it, we all felt like, whoa, he captured that so well. There's moments where you feel like he's really there, and then there's moments where he's not, which is so realistic, and that's kind of what we really wanted to capture with the film, was an authenticity.
Well, and I met Liz's father, and he wasn't able to respond much, but it was interesting acting in it, because it was scary in a lot of ways, because that could be the future for a lot of people.
And you have, JB has personal experience as well.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because we ended up filming it in her actual father's house, and that's also, I mean, it's just, so you've got not only this house that Liz has lived in, been around for a long time, and we're kind of like invading this space, and it's like, it was really weird because it was that like kind of crazy line of like very almost documentary, but like a fictionalized documentary, and it's kind of a strange place to be, because sets usually, at least when I'm on them, are usually pretty humorous, and you gotta relieve stress, but for something like this, there was a certain amount of respect we all kind of had, and it was probably a little bit more somber on set, but it was needed for the material, and so it was kind of interesting to see that. But it was really a surreal experience, like shooting it like in like the room that her father actually lives in, and where JB was in the short, and it adds this authenticity that just like you can't get any other way.
There was also a moment, I hope you don't mind me
Oh,
sharing,
no.
where it was a really late night shooting, and I mean, we were good. We didn't have crazy hours, but we were kind of working later into the night, and there was an issue with her dad and where he was staying, the short-term facility or whatever, and so we were in the middle of shooting, and he had to come home, and it was such a neat experience for the crew to have to see that, and the dad coming home and getting wheeled in with his wheelchair, and it was such a heavy moment, but at the same time really gave us all that sense of reality that kind of helped, I would say, the film.
Yeah.
While we were doing it.
Yeah.
It was interesting. But it was strange because
It made
he
it
was,
so real.
he was literally being like pushed in on a wheelchair through our set. Like he had to stop
Removing
filming,
lights around,
removing lights
and-
around so he can like come through, and it was just really
They talk about
emotionally
life
charged. Yeah.
imitating art,
Yeah.
or art imitating life. I guess it's kind of both.
Yeah, it's
And so that's kind of really what it was. And just to give a little background information, my father is in hospice at home. My sister and I take care of him, but she moved back home and lives with him full time to care for him. And so hospice offers respite care, where it gives the caregiver a little break. So it was kind of a weird thing where it kind of worked out where I was like, my sister could get the time off she desperately needed. My father could still be being cared for. We could film in the house, which, like Hutch was saying, offered so much realism because we had medical supplies. We had, you know, the handicap, the bed and the wheelchairs and all the machines,
medical supplies.
all the
Well,
stuff.
the production design of like even like down to the paintings that her father had painted, you know, years ago, we had on the walls, and it's just very authentic.
So then, while he was being cared for, unfortunately, the facility wasn't taking care of him, and so he got sick, and so my sister had to bring him home early, and so yeah, we were still in the middle of filming when we had to bring him home, and he's followed by his hospice nurse, and it was really tough, but everyone was so wonderful, and like I said from the beginning, this was really like a collaborative thing with the actors, with the producers and cinematographer. It's like, you know, we all try to create something that we thought would impact people and really bring this thing to life, I guess.
Duke it out.
Going back to being so involved as a director, writer, producer, and actress, what kind of toll did that take on you, and what was it like the transition of having to switch hats so often throughout the film, and some pros and cons of that versus just playing one role?
I think it was extremely difficult and stressful, and I'll admit that in the beginning I was like, am I crazy for doing this, and I don't know if I can do this. But I also thought it was both a challenge as an artist, you know, whether it be as the actress or director, but I also thought it would help ground it because I've lived through stuff, so I could really bring some reality to it. And I knew that I had such a good team. You know, I relied on them so much, you know, because of the fact that they were both producers, and then Kelly was the assistant director and Hutch was the director of photography. So it's one of those things where, you know, you rely on this great team that you've created, and so it makes things go a little more smoothly, so that at the time when I was acting, I could really focus on that while they were handling other things. And then you cast actors that are just, they're right for the part, they're so talented, you bond with them, and that makes it easier, you know, although it was
Easier
tough.
and
It was
harder.
tough. Yeah. I know. He's so sweet. Did you have?
Yeah, this is really for you, Mr. Edwards, but you all kind of touched on this a little bit. Talk about the mindset in getting into a character like that.
I'd gone through it with my mother, and so I mind some of that. But it was just getting rid of the fear.
The fear being.
Of actually being in that situation and going there.
And I'm sure that it also probably, again, made it difficult, but then also helped being in such a realistic environment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a set. It was a real home with real stuff. So it's easy for your subconscious to go where it needs to go to get the performances that you need.
Right.
But it's scary.
And it was easy working with someone like Liz because she was so in the moment and so there that it was the distractions. You know, a film set is like this. You've got people walking around, bartenders over there, things. But we were able to concentrate on that particular moment in time, and that helped.
I agree. And I think because so many of us were doing multiple roles, it created a much more intimate environment. You know, smaller crew, smaller team,
I mean,
which I think
we were,
helped.
like most of us were already friends to begin with, and then the ones that we didn't know that well, we became friends with. And it was really, at least from like my side, it's always interesting to see, you know, actors that just like completely let their guard down, because it's really easy to like put a wall up and like, you know, not be too vulnerable, but everybody just kind of like, it was hard to watch. It was hard to film, you know. I mean, the eyepiece kind of got foggy.
I remember Hutch
times, you know?
saying
It's
that.
like I can't. Okay, I need to look at a monitor. I can't look through here. So it's tough, you know. And it's you know, kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's like, you know, is it suck that we have to have something to create. Yeah, it kind of sucks the the reason why we have to, but it's also beautiful to work it out. So it's like we have to go through these experiences because we don't have a choice, but then to actually try to create something based off that choice, I think is very cathartic.
I totally agree. And it's something that you think people that are going through this can relate to it, and hopefully this will help in some way, maybe be comforting in some way, and then people who haven't kind of get a glimpse at this life, because like I said, it's becoming more and more prevalent where people are having to take care of a parent, and I feel like so many people can relate to when a woman has a baby or a child, and they give allowances for that. But it's like, I think in the world of really having to change your life in order to care for a parent like that, I just think that people don't really grasp it. And so we wanted to show what it's kind of really like, I guess. Yeah.
I'm floored by everything internationally. I know a lot of people bond on film sets and everything. There sounds like there's so much real raw emotion in all this. Could this even been done with it? Do you feel like you have a stronger bond than other films with this one? Because it just sounds really hard to do.
It's like, I guess you'd say, going back, it's kind of like almost like a surreal experience, because it is so real. And but I think that's what I don't know, I don't want to qualify it from something else, but that's what we want to do as artists. And so I can just say, I've made other films as this was my very first time to direct anything. I'm an actress and a producer and writer. The last several years, I've made family films. Like, I have a series of films called Adventures of Bailey out that are like talking dog movies. And Hutch has been the DP. Kelly's worked on, I've been a producer. Like I said, JB had a part in one. So I really was wanting to really push myself in an artistic way and really kind of, I don't know, maybe dig deep on something like this. Not that the family movies or the dog movies aren't personal, because they are and they mean a lot to me, but it's a different thing.